All right, hi everybody. I'm Erin Boz, and I'm gonna teach a 30-minute basic flow class. This is a really great practice to use if you're brand new to the practice, if you're interested in learning some vinyasa flow yoga for the first time. It's also a really great practice to tune up some of your alignment if you've been practicing for a while and you just have some questions about the particular postures and healthy alignment. So we're going to get started in a child's pose. If you do happen to have a yoga block at home, this is one of the best props you can use, especially for a basic flow class. Just gives you a lot of options to modify things to make it a little healthier, a little more suitable for your own body. So I'm going to just keep this nearby, and I'm going to use it now and again. At home, if you don't have a block, I always say grab a big fat book from your bookshelf, or you could even use a water bottle as a prop for your hands. So we're going to start off in child's pose. And it's a really nice place in child's pose to start to find your breath. And really, this is a breath practice. So we want to come to a place where we can get really present, really focused on just what we're feeling in our bodies. So take the knees a little wider than your hips, whatever feels comfortable. Bring your toes together. And just drop your hips back towards your heels. If it feels too intense to sink all the way back, you can leave your hips kind of floating, but the best part of child's pose is resting the forehead. So go ahead and rest your forehead down and take a few deep breaths. And the breath that we're focused on here is the Ujjayi breath. So climbing up to the hands and the knees. Stack your knees right underneath your hips. Bring your hands just a little wider than your shoulder distance and press down into all 10 of your knuckles. And so when you're focusing on the Ujjayi breath, you want to inhale through the nose, fill all that space in your lungs. Little pause at the top, and then exhale all the breath out of your nose, drawing the belly in to empty completely. And we'll add a little movement to that. On the inhale, a little tilt in the tail, look up. And on your exhale, round, contract the belly and just empty it all out. And inhale, look up. Exhale, round the back. Empty it out. And one more time, look up on the inhale. And round your back, empty all the breath out. Just clearing away those cobwebs. And then curling under your toes. Press your hips up and back. So downward facing dog. Hands a little wider than shoulders distance. And again, check in with the palms. Make sure all 10 of your fingers, your knuckles are flat on your mat. And if you press down into those thumb knuckles, you'll feel a little more energy in the hands. And then lift up through your belly, lift up through your sit bones. And the idea here is it's an active pose, but there's a little release. So you can shake out the head, and just do a full body scan. Like, where do you feel tight in your joints? Do you feel any stiffness? You can pedal out the heels, just stretching out those hamstrings. Those big muscles in the back body can get really stiff. And then again, even out your breath. Maybe 5 or 6 seconds in for the breath in, and then a full 5 or 6 seconds as you exhale it out. Yoga is just a practice of noticing where your body is today. Getting a little time, a little sacred space to check in. And then gently soften your knees and just walk your feet up to your hands. And big toes together, maybe feet an inch or two apart. Keep a little bend in those knees, and on your inhale, lift up halfway. Fingers to shin bones, lengthen through your spine. And then on your exhale, fold in half. And then one more time, inhale, lift up halfway. Draw the shoulder blades together to get a nice flat back. And then exhale, fold. Inhale, reach all the way up. Press into the feet, look up. Pull the belly up and in. And then tracing the hands right through midline, forward fold. Halfway lift as you breathe in, flat back. And then plant your palms flat, and 1 foot at a time, step back to the high push-up.
And so we're gonna move through a sequence of postures, the sun salutation A, and this is where we just kind of create some heat and some flow in this style of yoga. So you can keep the knees lifted, but for the purpose of this class, we're gonna go with knees on the mat. And then keeping the belly strong and the thighs engaged. Look forward on your breath in and lower all the way down to the floor. I'm gonna move this block out of the way. Point your toes so feet press down into the mat. Hands a little wider than the shoulders and peel up to a cobra. Gentle back bend. Squeeze the shoulder blades down your back, take a breath in, and then lower all the way down as you breathe out. And one more time for that cobra. Lift up on the inhale, slide the shoulder blades back, and then fold all the way down as you exhale. Curl under the toes, flatten the hands, press straight up to the high push-up. And right here, we're gonna build a little heat. So the plank pose, engaging the thighs, drawing the belly in, and imagine that your tailbone is tucking back toward your heels, and the front of your hips are pulling forward. And this is a really great place to practice breath. So when things start to get a little juicy, a little heated in the body, just keep the breath smooth, keep the breath even. Take one more inhale here, and then downward facing dog. Feet a little wider than the hips. Always keeping those knees just a little soft so you can engage the belly and lengthen the spine. And then taking a full inhale, rise up to your tippy toes, big bend in the knees, and just step one foot at a time to the front of the mat. Halfway lift, breathe in. Forward fold, breathe it all out. And let's flow. Inhale to rise. Exhale to bow. Halfway lift, breathe in. Step back one foot at a time. The plank pose, your high push-up. Setting your knees down, stay strong in your belly, and lower all the way to the floor. Inhale, peel up to that cobra pose stretch. Lower halfway down, curl into the toes, and let's just press right back to downward facing dog. And if you ever feel that pinch or that tension in the low back, you can press straight up to the push-up and then back to down dog. Just finding these little tricks to move through the practice so that it feels good for your body. And one more breath, rise up to toes, bend your knees, and step one foot at a time. Halfway lift, breathe in, and forward fold, breathe it out. Inhale to rise. One more sun A. Exhale to fold. Halfway lifting. Step back one foot at a time. High push up. Set the knees down. Keep squeezing your core muscles up and in as you lower to the floor. Inhale to cobra. Squeeze the shoulder blades together. And then lower down halfway. Curl under those toes. Downward facing dog. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Open up your mouth and just sigh it out. And then as you breathe in, float your right leg, hip height. And just flexing those toes so there's this little zip of energy in the front thigh. Take a breath in and bring the knee in towards your belly. And looking forward, just step that right foot between your thumbs. And as you do that, you kind of feel out where the hips are. A lot of people are going to feel better by walking that right foot over to the right edge of the mat, just an inch or two. And then gazing at your back foot, spin your back heel and plug it into your yoga mat. And then as you inhale, reach the arms, warrior one. And this pose has a lot of different kinks to it. But taking your hands to your hips, see if you can feel out a place that you can ground down into the feet. So for me, I find that taking that front knee and bringing it up a little bit straighter so that I can get really grounded into that back heel. And play with this because it might even feel better to open the back foot up a little more so that you have a little more movement in the hips. And then steering your left rib cage just a little more forward. Draw your belly up and in. And then reach the arms. And there's that length in the spine that just allows you to breathe in a little deeper. And take one more inhale as you reach up. And then lower all the way down, high push up. Setting the knees down, lower down to the floor. Inhale to your cobra pose. Exhale, lower down to the mat and press up to high push-up. And then as you find your high push-up position, walk your hands in just a little closer and lower down to the forearms. Build a little heat in the middle of our flow. So toes are curled under, thighs are lifting up and in, and belly is strong. Almost everybody can access this pose. Good one to build a little strength at the core. But from here, see if you can focus on lifting the front hip bones up and tucking your tailbone back. And then 5 breaths. Little rule that we always have in yoga is when you feel like you need to come out of the pose, just try to modify a little. So right here, set the knees down if you get a little tired, and then breathe in a little deeper. Last 3 breaths. 2 more. And then lower the hips all the way down. Just let them rest on your mat. Drop your forehead. Peel your chest up, a big cobra pose in, and maybe a big sigh. Let that go. Curl under the toes. Downward facing dog. Float your left leg hip height. Keep a little bend in that right knee. And then flex those toes. You can kind of peek back and check in with the foot that's lifted. And then bringing that knee into your chest, rock the shoulders forward so they're right over wrists, just a little toning in that middle body, and step your left foot forward. And then again, maybe walk it over to the left edge an inch or 2. Spin your back heel flat, ground it down, and then come all the way up, warrior 1. And check in with the left side of your body. So this side, maybe you feel a little tighter. You can take a little bend out of that front knee, and then using your hands, just steering that right rib cage forward. Anchor the back foot down. Maybe open the foot a little wider and play with this. It feels a little different every single day. So some freedom here to kind of play around, especially if you've been practicing a certain way in this pose for a really long time. It's nice to kind of explore what might feel better in your body. So keeping those hips maybe a little more open feels better today. Reach the arms up. Take the gaze up. 1 more full breath in and lower all the way down. High push-up, knees on your mat. Lower to the floor. Baby cobra, breathe in. Exhale, lower down, tuck the chin. Downward facing dog. And let's put that all together for the sun salutation B. So rise up to toes. Bend your knees and step or spring. Halfway lift, flat back. Exhale to fold. And let's try this, let's play with this. Wiggle walk your feet maybe about an inch apart. And put a big bend in your knees. And bring your fingertips up to your shin bones. And sink your hips back so they're almost even with your knees. So you start to feel those muscles in your thighs come to life. Lengthen the chest out. Pull the belly up and in, and then reach those arms back like wings. Anchor the heels down and lift the chest a little higher. Keep that big bend in the knees so the back body is firing up, is engaging, and then reach the arms forward. It's like a supercharged chair pose, Utkatasana. Ground down into feet, lift up through the heart, and 3 really deep breaths. And you start to feel the shoulder blades soften. Keep drawing the belly up and in. On that last breath in, lift the gaze, and then forward fold. Ooh, halfway lift, breathe in. Step back 1 foot at a time to your high push-up. And if you're feeling a little warmer now, and you want to play with this full pose, keeping the legs straight, the belly strong, rock forward, and lower halfway down. So this is the chaturanga, just an option. You can always set the knees down and keep going to the floor. Cobra pose, breathe in. And downward facing dog. Right foot forward, right into it, warrior 1. Press down, reach up, and lower all the way back to the floor. Draw the belly in as you lower slow. Inhale to cobra. Lower down just a little, tuck the chin. Downward facing dog. Left foot steps. Warrior 1, Virabhadrasana. and lower down. Knees on the mat, belly strong, hips rest on your mat, cobra pose, and downward facing dog. Press up and back, pedal those heels out, and take a little time in this downward facing, just to balance out the breath. If you need more of a break than downward facing dog, there's always that option to sneak in a child's pose. And let's just go there for a moment. Knees a little wider than hips, rest the head. And slowly coming back up. Downward facing dog. Float that right leg hip height. Flex the toes. And then bring the knee right into the chest and round the back. Hold right here. Some toning, some strengthening. You may want to walk the hands back, keeping those shoulders stacked. Soften your elbows just a hair so we've got this strength in the upper arms. And then unhinge your knee and step your right foot to the right edge of the mat. Way out to the outer edge of your right hand. And for this pose, stay on the ball of your back foot. And then as you press down into the back foot, lift all the way up to Crescent Lunge. And so playing with this again, catch your hips for a moment. Feet, if the feet go wider, so you'll get a little wobbly. See, I'm already losing my balance if the feet are too close together. So you walk that right foot out to the right edge, and then ground down into the ball of the back foot and play with bending your back knee. And as you bend the back knee, you can tuck the tailbone down and feel a little more supported at your core. Reach the arms up, take a deep breath in, and then bring the palms down to the heart. And very slowly, start to lower the back knee all the way down to your mat. Release the back foot, and for some, it's easy to kind of collapse into this low lunge. So as you come into it, press down and kind of pull up and out of that deep stretch, so you still have that really active back leg. And reaching the arms back up, look up, bring the hands right through the heart, and we're gonna take a twist. So left elbow to the outside of that right thigh. And keep breathing. A really active twist happens when the hips are square. And draw your chest forward, spinning open, squeeze the belly muscles. Option to stay just like this, or if you want a little more toning in the back leg, you can curl under the back toe and lift that back knee up off the mat. It gives you a little more room to lengthen to the torso. And then hands can stay at the heart. But I really like this option, catching a hold of your block, put it on your mat directly under that left hand, directly under that left shoulder, and then split your palms. So there's all this freedom in the shoulders. You can get this great big open chest. So one more breath here, and then set the hands down. Stepping back, nice and slow, to your high push-up. And then setting the left knee on your mat, stack it right under the left hip, and you can kind of swing that left foot out behind you for balance, and then spin to the big toe edge of your right foot. So it's the side plank with a kickstand. And once you get steady here, press actively down through that left hand and float your right foot hip height. A little core to stabilize that right side of your body. Reaching that right arm forward and finding that balance between the effort that it takes to hold the pose and a little ease, a little freedom, lengthening, stretching out your body. And reach that right hand to the sky, and then set it down. Come onto the knees, come onto the forearms, and 5 breaths. So again, this modified forearm plank. If you're feeling kind of strong today, and you want a little more heat, curl the toes under, and float those knees up off your mat. And 3 more breaths. Soften the jaw. Any muscles you don't need, all those muscles around your eyebrows can soften up. And then last inhale, lengthen forward and lower the hips all the way down. Gentle cobra stretch. Lift your chest up, pull your belly in, and then lower the forehead, curl under the toes. Press right back to down dog. And the second side, so left foot floats, hip height, breathe in. Knee to chest as you breathe out. Hold right here. Strengthen the core and soften those elbows. And then step your left foot to the front edge of your mat. Nice and wide in your base. You might even want to plop that right foot over to the right edge a few inches. And prop up to fingertips, lengthen through the upper back, and come all the way up, your crescent lunge. Bring the palms right down through the heart. Bend the back knee so you can access just a little movement in the pelvis, tailbone tucking down. And then you can keep the hands on the hips here, just for balance. Lower the back knee all the way down to your mat. Release the back toes and press up out of that really deep low lunge stretch so you're active in the right thigh. And reach the right arms to the sky, look up. A little smile because this feels really good. And then hands through the heart, twist. Right elbow wraps around that left thigh. And if you engage in your low belly, the twist becomes a little more active. Just squeezing and rinsing out the tension, the stress that builds in that internal body. You can stay right here, or you can split your palms. Again, the block is so awesome here. Right hand on the block. Left arm to the sky. Last 3 breaths. If you want a little more, you can curl those back toes under and lift back up to the full lunge. Turn your gaze, look up. For that last inhale, reach up and then lower down. The high push-up. Top of the plank pose, breathe in and downward facing dog. Lift your heels up. Bend the knees and just walk little steps all the way up to the front of the mat and ragdoll forward fold. So feet go nice and wide. Catch opposite elbows with opposite hands and just fold in. Nice place to release the head. Let a little blood rush down to your heart, to your brain. Set all 10 fingertips on your mat and then walk your feet to touch. And just a really slow roll all the way up to stand. Reach the arms. Catch a hold of the left wrist overhead. Side stretch to the right. Rinse out all those breathing muscles, those hip muscles. Come up to center. Catch the right wrist and just a gentle lean over to the left. And then right up to center, reach up, look up, and bring the palms together right at the heart. And then just setting up here for a simple balance pose, the tree pose. So bending that right knee, and start with the right foot at the shin bone. And for most of us, this is a really supported way to practice the balance. If you want a little more, you can catch the right foot and slide it all the way up above the knee joint for the tree pose. Vrikshasana. And you might feel a little wobbly. You know, some days balance comes easy, and some days it's like we're all over the place. So wherever you are today, just give yourself a moment. Stand up a little taller and fill your lungs with some breath. And give it one more moment here, squeezing that standing leg. Release the foot and give that right knee a little hug. Woo. Squeeze it up and in, and then just kick it back slowly, right into the airplane. Little balance. If you fall out of it, no big deal, just come right back in. Only here for a moment. Bending that left knee, land your warrior one. Reach the arms up. And then open the arms up parallel to your mat, our first warrior two. And so inhaling, length through the spine, but setting up the feet a little different so heel lines up with the arch of your back foot. And again, if you want to take a little bend out of this front knee so you can create a little more length in your torso. And for the first few breaths, take your right hand to the front of your chest and your left hand to the back and just draw all those muscles up and in so the spine is really neutral.
And then reach the arms out parallel. When we find that neutral alignment of the spine, we don't have to work nearly as hard. Smoothing out the breath, you can even turn your palms to face up. Put a little bend in the elbows and slide your shoulder blades down your back. And then keeping the legs, reverse your warrior, so just left arm stretches up to the sky. And slowly straighten that front leg. And start to tip forward from this left hip crease, just lowering the left hand down to your shin bone. Another great place for the block. I almost always use a block in this pose because my torso is really long, which makes my arms feel kind of short. So if you press into that block and you keep lifting up through your belly, you want to activate, you want to kind of light up all those muscles in the left side of your waist so it can stay just as long as the right side. In the triangle pose. Take a breath in to look up and just reaching, lengthening as high as you can through that right hand. And then come all the way back, warrior two. Reverse your warrior, look up, and then cartwheel the hands all the way down to the mat. Move this block out of the way, and step back to high push-up. And a little flow, lower the knees all the way down to your mat. Inhale to cobra. Tuck the chin, press up and back, downward facing dog. Lift up the toes, bend your knees, and step or take a little hop to the front of your mat. Halfway, breathe in. Fold as you breathe out. And inhale all the way up to that tall spine. Bring the hands together at the heart. And setting up for tree pose on the second side. So keeping the right foot flat, bending that left knee, turn it out to the left. And for this time, I'm gonna just keep the foot on the shin bone. You're still challenging your balance right here. Just a little less intensity at the hips. And you might wobble a little, it's all good. And smiling always keeps things a little lighter. So lift the crown of your head up. Take a deep breath in. Let all that air out. And then hug that left knee into your chest. Give it a little squeeze. Stand up nice and straight. And kick that left foot back right into the airplane. Pull your heart forward and pressing the palms. It's almost like pressing hands down to lift heart up. Take a breath in and land your warrior one. Walk the right foot forward. Sweep the arms up to the sky and open up to warrior two. And just to build this pose on this side, catch your hips and walk the right foot in toward middle of your mat. And check in to see that that heel's generally in line with the middle of your back foot. And here you can play with the foot being a little more parallel or angling those toes forward, which creates a little more strength in the legs. And then reach the arms out, long in the chest. Zip up your spine. 3 breaths. And those inhales, you can just feel the chest pulling up a little taller. And spin the palms to face up and slide the shoulder blades down your back and reverse your warrior. Breathe in, slowly straighten that front leg without locking the knee and press into the mound of your front foot. And then hinging forward, setting up for triangle pose. So the hand can just rest on the shin and just make sure it's resting there lightly. So you press down into feet. You lift all those muscles in the low body, and then you can start to turn the chest open. And getting all the angles, stretching your heart forward over your front big toe. Some of us have a lot of tension around that neck. So if it feels better, you can gaze straight down at the right big toe. So that last inhale to reach forward, and then bring it back up. Warrior two. Reverse your warrior and cartwheel the hands all the way down. High push-up. Hold your high push-up. Take a deep breath in and a long breath out. And one more inhale here, just right back to downward facing dog. And we're gonna walk the feet all the way up to the hands. Take a seat at the front edge of the mat and just give your knees a little squeeze. Just hugging it all in.
It takes a lot of effort, a lot of dedication to start something new. Or just to set aside 30 minutes in the day to practice some yoga, you know, some of that self-care. It's so important. Now reach your arms forward, and then as you breathe in, sit up tall, and as you breathe out, lower all the way down to the floor. Flatten the back. One more time, squeeze your knees into your chest. And just one more really active pose. We're going to set up for the bridge. So feet stay about hips distance, and if you walk your feet back a few inches, you should be able to graze the backs of your heels with your middle fingers. And it's a good way to check that you're aligned. And then just lift your hips up an inch off the mat and start to wrap your arms under. And so for some of us, this is enough sensation. If you want to go a little deeper, you can interlace the fingers, press down through the heels, and float your hips up. So the action comes from those front thighs, pressing the quads up to the sky, tucking the tailbone under. A little juice, a little rinse out. That last inhale, lift it all up, and then lower it all back down. Take a deep breath in. Open up your mouth and sigh it out. And then we're going to move into like a little more of a gentle back bend. So catching the block. Again, if you don't have a block, a book, a cushion, something to support the hips. We're going to keep this one a low version of the supported bridge, or you can tilt it up to the high version. Really great posture to melt away some of the resistance that builds around the front of the chest, around the front of the heart. We spend a lot of the day slouched forward, you know, working over our computers, especially now with everybody working from home. You know, we spend a lot of time slumped forward in a chair. And this is really a beautiful pose to counteract some of that. So enjoy it. Take a few extra moments right here. If it feels really good and you're at home practicing, you can even press pause for a few, maybe 5 minutes, and hold this shape. And then lift your hips up off the block and come all the way down. Take your feet to the wide edges of the mat and just let your knees fall in. And a deep breath in. And a big sigh out. Catch a hold of the legs. And just start to rock head to tail. And after back bending, it's always nice to sneak in a little bit of core work. So one, boat pose. And hold on to the hamstrings and find a little balancing point on your sit bones and just start to straighten the legs to your degree. So this might be enough. If you're feeling juicy today, you can lengthen the legs a little more. And you can keep the grip on the legs, or you can stretch the arms forward. And just take 5 breaths. Lengthening the spine, trying to keep your back, your spine as long as possible. Look up, lift everything up and in, and then cross those ankles and just step back to downward facing dog. And just a gentle hip opener, the pigeon pose. So bring your right knee behind your right wrist. And bend this front knee, especially if you're a little newer to this pose or your hips are tighter. Pull this foot back towards your hip. You know, it gives you a little more freedom to fold into the shape. Release the back foot onto the mat. And then work your hips, you know, toward an even position on the floor. And walk your chest forward. And so this is the pigeon pose, traditionally practiced. If you have any issues with your knee joints, if you've had any surgeries or injuries there, I'll show you the modified position for this one. You're just going to lay down on your mat and bend the right knee, tuck that ankle to the front of the thigh, and just reach through the legs and catch that left shin. So it's the same stretch, you're just in a more supported position. Less tension on the leg. You can even bring this foot back toward the hip a little, so it's not so much of a stretch. And give it a breath in. And release the stretch. If you're in the traditional pose, just come up and we'll meet in downward facing dog. Neutral in your hips, press down into your palms. And second side. So bring the left knee forward behind the left wrist. And bend that front knee as much as you need to so the foot can come back toward the hip if that feels better. And then just rest your head down. If you have a block and you don't want to go all the way to the floor, it's nice to rest the head on a block. And this is like one of the best parts of the practice. You've done all the work, you've put your body through the physical part of the practice, and now you can just start to relax. Take advantage of those warm muscles. And lift your chest back up wherever you are. Swing the legs forward and roll all the way down to the mat. Last pose, give the knees a big, juicy squeeze and a happy baby. So catching the soles of the feet, bend those knees out nice and wide. And depending on how tight your hamstrings are, if that's too much, you can just catch the backs of the thighs. But flatten out the low back and do a little rock side to side, almost like a self-massage. And then release the feet, hug the knees into the chest. Stretch your left leg straight, twist your right leg across. Just a really gentle spinal rinse. Look over your right shoulder. And back to center, hug both knees in, just that neutral spine, and then straighten the right leg and twist the left knee across. And just relaxing all those muscles in the neck and the jaw. And then back to center, hug it all in. And Shavasana. So your final rest, and you don't want to skip this one. Stretch your legs out, drop your arms nice and wide, and close your eyes. It's especially nice if you're home and you have a little washcloth, a little towel you can rest over your eyes. Just for 3, 4, 5 moments, eliminate all the distractions. And again, if you're home and you want more than a few minutes in Shavasana, just press pause and take as much time as you need. And then when you're ready, bending your knees, roll over to one side and just slowly press back up to your seat. And coming back up to a comfortable seat, bringing the palms together at your heart and honoring this time that you've taken for yourself. To either try something new or to just tune up to kind of check in with all the alignment of the poses you've been practicing for a while. Thank you all so much, and namaste.